Hello, our next lesson is on decimals, fractions, and percents. Our learning target today is I can convert between multiple representations of rational numbers. And what that really means is going between fractions, decimals, and percents. My first example that I'm going to have here is just the number 5. We are familiar with that number. I'm going to start by thinking about that as in this picture. So if I were going to show 5 using these hundreds blocks, I would shade in everything. So there are 500 little squares in each of those. You do not have to shade it in because you might not be able to see it as nicely as this, but if you want, you can. So 5 as a picture is 5 of these wholes. And that's going to help me think about what is 5 as a fraction. So I'm saying 5 wholes. So I have 5 over 1, 5 wholes. As a decimal, 5 would be 5, and then I'm going to have my decimal point, 0.0. I have 5 of the little hundreds, which adds up to 5 wholes, like I said before. And then as a percent, I have 5 times 100%, or I have 500%, and I'm seeing that through my picture as well. So here I wrote in words 1 and 2/10. I'm going to start with my picture again. So I know that 1 would be shading in the whole thing, and then 2/10, I'm shading in 2 of my tenths. So 1, 2. So there's 1 and 2/10. Now I'm going to write that as a fraction. So I have 1 and then 2 out of 10. That's the same thing as if I had said 1 and I did 20 blocks out of 100. Same thing, so 1 and 2/10 or 1 and 20 out of 100. Then if I want to think about that as a decimal, I can think about this in a couple of ways. I know I'm going to start with my 1. When I say 2/10, I'm reading the word 1 and 2/10. That means that I am putting 2 in the tenths place. The tenths place is a place that comes after the decimal point. So that's how I can change it into 1 and 2/10. If I wanted to, I could also divide the numerator by the denominator. So I could do 2 divided by 10 equals 0.2. That's what I get. And I still have the 1, so I would end up with 1 and 2/10. And then finally, as a percent, I know that one of my whole blocks is going to be 100%, and then I have 20 out of 100. So I'm going to have 120% because I have 120 of my little 100 blocks shaded in my picture. Another way I can think about this is that when I'm going from a decimal to a percent, I am multiplying by 100. So 1.2 times 100 equals 120%. My last example is going to be 75 hundredths. So I'm going to start with my picture again. I'm going to shade in 75 of my hundredths. Let's see, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that's 75 hundredths represented with my 100 blocks. Now, if I want to think about it as a fraction, I can think how many out of 100 did I shade in? Well, I shaded in 75 out of 100. But I can also simplify this fraction. I'm going to see what's the biggest number that I could divide into both 75 and 100. That number, that greatest common factor, is 25. Oh, that should say divided. Divide by 25, divide by 25. If we do that, you will get 3/4. So 75 over 100 is the same thing as 3/4. Either of those would be correct. Now we're going to go to a decimal. So this is a decimal. I'm going to use the strategy again of reading it. So if I have 75 hundredths, that means that I'm going to have 75. That goes to the hundredths place. Once again, you could also do 75 divided by 100 to get that, or 3 divided by 4. Either way, you would get 0.75. I'll write that here. 3 divided by 4 equals 0.75 or 75 hundredths. And now to go to a percent, I already have it as a fraction written out of 100. Percent means out of 100, so this is 75%. The other strategy that we can use when we are going from decimal to percent is to multiply by 100, and that will give you what the decimal is as a percent. The last thing that you need to do is to summarize in your own words. I showed a couple different strategies for going between fractions, decimals, and percents and pictures, but you should use what works for you. So it is your job to remind yourself, if I'm going to go from a fraction to a decimal, I do this, or to go from a decimal to a fraction, I do this. Write it yourself or talk to a partner, that is fine. But the point of this is for you to put the learning into your own words. Once you have finished that, you're going to go on to making a multiple representations poster. There will be a model up on the front board. You can get started once you finish writing your notes. Good luck.